evening and welcome to Thai PBS English News Service. I'm Supachon Klinswan. Some 90% of the eastern and central regions, including Bangkok and the greater metropolitan area, will see rainfall tomorrow. Meanwhile, water from Sukhothai province continues to flow into and flood neighboring Pisonulok province. Every second that goes by, some 340 cubic meters of water drains out of Sukhothai and passes through Pisonulok's Bangrakam district. While the situation in Sukhothai has improved, the Yom River may breach its banks in Pisonulok in the next 48 hours if this rate of drain-off continues. In the upper north, many highways in Lampang province are now impassable due to the flooding after the Wang River breached its banks. Local authorities in Ang Thong and Nakhon Sawan are now warning locals to be on alert and have prepared boats, sandbags and barriers to try to prevent the overflow. These two provinces directly in the path of the waters as they flow south. Meanwhile, Aranya Prathet's famous Rong Kleur market, which is located along the Thai-Cambodian border, is reported to be at risk of flooding due to drain off from the mountains. Water from the mountains is flooding many areas in the region. Many provinces in the northeast, including Leh, are also being flooded as water overflowed from the Namchan reservoir. A ridge of high pressure remains over the upper north, while a rather strong southwest monsoon prevails over the south. Heavy rain is expected across 90% of the country during the next 2 days, especially in the eastern and central regions, including Bangkok. And the Prime Minister is now asking private sectors and national, regional and local administrations to share the responsibility for taking care of canals and waterways in an effort to prevent floods. She added that another 277 canals in Bangkok are in need of being dredged. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra and her government launched the Room Rang Thai Raksa Nam Nai Tuk Khu Klong campaign this morning. The project literally translates as all Thais taking care of all canals, as now both private and state agencies have been enlisted to help looking after the canals, especially in the capital and municipalities. The Prime Minister says to date, public officials have been achieving tangible results in preventing floods and assisting victims who have been affected. She says at least 277 canals in Bangkok and the greater metropolitan area are in need of being dredged to clear a way for flood water drainage. From last year's experience, once the flood water reaches Bangkok and the metropolitan complex sewer system, there will be no visual warning of where the water may flow. And the Truth for Reconciliation Commission for Thailand held a press conference today to publish a report on the 2010 political unrest. The commission says that the men in black were indeed involved in the violence, while also stating that the operational methods of state authorities were flawed, especially their use of live ammunition. In its report, the commission also addressed the root problem of the unrest and made suggestions for reconciliation.
The over 300-page official report on the political turmoil that took place between April and May 2010, prepared by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Thailand, concludes that a group of men in black were indeed active during the protests, and military-type weapons were used to attack authorities. State officials were found to have been killed by these men in black, but the report says no civilian protesters were killed by the group. Furthermore, the men in black were found to be closely linked with the murdered Major General Khattiya Swadipon, better known as Sedang. The commission says the men in black received the support from red-shirt security guards during the 2010 political confrontations, including protests at Kok Ngo intersection on April 10th and Ratchaparot Road on May 10th. However, a direct association between the men in black and red-shirt leaders has not been detected. Still, the commission concluded that red-shirt leaders endorsed the use of force, incited violence, and did not attempt to prevent the state of disorder. At the same time, state authorities responsible for quashing the tension did not have experience in managing chaotic crowds, and they used heavy weapons and live rounds. More worryingly, their commanders failed to monitor the efficiency and effectiveness of the operational plans. This negligence resulted in clashes between the protesters and state officials. The Truth for Reconciliation Commission of Thailand then discussed academic research on Thai society, which separates the development of society into three phases. The first was under the 1997 Constitution, which had the objective to distribute power and improve the stability of the government, while strengthening checks and balances through independent agencies. The second phase was following the military coup that toppled the Thaksin Shinawatra administration in 2006, where confusion reigned in Thai society regarding the principle of democracy and justice. The third and final phase was following the enactment of the new constitution in 2007. This, the report says, is when strong political differences began to surface in society and people began to take sides. The Commission suggested that reconciliation should be fostered through creating an understanding among the public. The Commission stressed that from now on, society has to have confidence in justice and democracy. The government has to create equality and eliminate double standards. Any amendments to the Constitution must involve all sectors of society, and the role of the military must be kept within the limit of law and Constitution.
Citing police reports, the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok is warning U.S. citizens in Thailand and visitors to the embassy that a mass demonstration is expected in front of the embassy on Wireless Road tomorrow. The embassy did not specify which groups are expected to demonstrate, but it is believed that the embassy will be the target of protests by Muslims angry at a controversial film which is said to mock the Prophet Muhammad, who is highly revered by those of Islamic faith. This would be the latest protest about the film and follows similar protests in front of U.S. embassies in many other countries. In a warning posted on the U.S. mission's website, the embassy said it had been informed by police that hundreds of people are expected to gather in Lumpini Park and march to the embassy on Wireless Road between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. tomorrow. The embassy says the protests will disrupt traffic, therefore the embassy will be closed to the public from noon, and non-essential personnel will be sent home. Visa and citizen services appointments scheduled for the afternoon of September the 18th are being cancelled and rescheduled for later dates. In its statement, the embassy says it is not aware at this time of any specific threat to U.S. citizens in Thailand, but advises Americans in Thailand to exercise caution, monitor local media to keep updated with the latest information about demonstrations and areas to avoid. The Energy Ministry will gradually increase petroleum prices over the next 2 years, but they insist that the rise will not affect the public's cost of living, as the State Oil Fund will be used to control the prices. The Energy Ministry announced that it will gradually raise the price of all petroleum products to reflect the world market value. The adjustment will be taking place over the next 2 years to prepare Thailand for the ASEAN Economic Community, due to commence in 2015. The ministry has also recently finalized its plan to increase the price of cooking LPG at the start of 2013. Initially, the Energy Ministry will use the State Oil Fund to steer the price of cooking LPG towards the world market value. After this has been achieved, the ministry will gradually reduce the amount of subsidy to leave the fund with reserves to assist low-income households. At present, Thailand caps the price of cooking LPG at 18 baht 13 stan per kilogram, or about $333 per ton, while the world market value is currently at $1,000 per ton. On September 30th, the airport rail link will, for a trial period of 3 months, charge a flat rate of 20 baht for travel on its city line. And on October 3rd, the MRT underground train will raise its fares by 1 baht per stop. Starting September 30th, the airport rail link will impose a flat fee of 20 baht on its city line between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. for a period of 3 months. Presently, the fare ranges between 15 and 45 baht per trip and attracts a low number of passengers, around 4,000 passengers a day, generating average daily revenue of 130,000 baht. This change, therefore, aims to encourage more passengers to use the airport link. However, the discount will mean that during the promotion period, the airport rail link will be operating at a loss of 50,000 baht per day. It will consider extending the discount period if the number of daily passengers exceeds 4,000. However, the airport link express line fare will remain at the regular late rate of 150 baht per trip. At the same time, the Mass Rapid Transit or underground train will increase its transport fees by 1 baht per stop starting October 3rd. This rise has been postponed for the last 3 months. Once the change takes effect, the fare will be at 16 baht, while the highest fare will be at 40 baht, and the underground train now tracks 260,000 passengers daily, up from last year's 180,000 per day. And following the U.S. Federal Reserve's announcement of the third round of quantitative easing, or QE3, global stock exchange indices and commodity prices have surged in the anticipation of economic recovery. Dr. Runtip Chonapalai talked to Kun Gopsit Simpachai, head of capital markets research at Kasikorn Bank, who warns of inflation and money flow into emerging markets like Thailand.
It seems like Ben Bernanke is following the lines of what Mario Draghi, or the central bank governor of the ECB, is doing. Is he's trying to fulfill the mantra of whatever it takes. So he's going to do whatever it takes for the unemployment rate to go down to an acceptable level, to get job creation up and running to a more robust level than what we've seen in the recent data, such as 96,000 people being employed.
But you think it is come out at the right time?
Well, I think everybody says that. It seems rather political that he's trying to help Obama to try to win the elections. But you got to consider that he has a mandate. If the Congress or the politicians are not happy with his performance, they have to change his mandate. His mandate is to look after inflation and unemployment, or the jobs market at the same time. His justification seems to be that the unemployment rate is still very elevated. It's at 8.1%. But the reason why it's actually declined is for the wrong reason. It's because people are discouraged and they don't want to be in the labor force anymore. So they're going to try to find some other means of supporting a living. So therefore, it seems that the mandate is forcing his hand, that he has to move on QE. The other important point that I would probably like to make is that it's clever in a way that in the past, for example, QE1 and QE2, they bought U.S. treasuries. So it looked like it was directly subsidizing the government. This time around, QE3 is buying mortgage-backed securities. So it's not lending to the government directly, but they're lending to the housing market. They're trying to support the housing market so that it creates a floor that the prices don't fall even further, because the housing market is a form of savings. So if he can support that market, hopefully it will indirectly support the jobs market as well.
In the continuing row over ownership of islands in the East China Sea, a small group of around 100 protesters marched to the Japanese embassy in Beijing today. Protests had been growing larger and spread of at least 24 cities over the weekend.
Tensions have been growing for months over the East China Sea islands since a right-wing nationalist Japanese politician vowed to buy them from their private owners to better protect them from Chinese encroachment. When the Japanese government purchased the islands last week to keep them out of the politicians' hands, China reacted angrily, sending marine patrol ships inside Japanese-claimed waters around the islands. Today, protesters gathered outside the Japanese embassy in Beijing, clearly outnumbered by the heavy security presence. Rows of paramilitary police standing shoulder to shoulder guarded the perimeter of the diplomatic compound. The Japanese flag, absent on Sunday, returned today to the embassy's pole. Fresh protests are expected tomorrow, a date that marks 81 years since the invasion of Manchuria by the Japanese Imperial Army, a traditionally emotional anniversary in China. Many Chinese have been calling for economic sanctions against Japan, with calls for boycotts of Japanese businesses and imports. Many Japanese restaurant owners in Beijing have covered signs of their businesses with China's national flag and put up signs displaying the Chinese nationality and patriotism of the owners. Yesterday in Tokyo, U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta urged the two countries to find a peaceful resolution before the dispute over the islands, called Diaoyu in Chinese and Senkaku in Japanese, spark provocations and violence. After talks in Tokyo, he is expected to fly on to Beijing. Protesters turned violent in several cities across China over the weekend, and police used pepper spray, tear gas and water cannon to disperse thousands of demonstrators who attacked riot police. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda called on Beijing to ensure the protection of his country's people and property. The protests are expected to continue as China marks its official Memorial Day on Tuesday to remember Japan's wartime occupation of parts of China. Hugh Adams, Thai PBS.
Thank you, Hugh, and that's all the time we have for tonight's edition of Thai PBS English News Service. I'm Super John Clean Suwan saying good night for now. สวัสดีครับ